Well, hey folks, it's your old pal, King Waspinator here. And once again, back to the middle of the night Star Trek reviews. You know, as much as Picard really, broke my will to live in some ways, I do find that I kind of missed having the excuse to record these little middle of the night, Thursday morning reviews of whatever BS CBS is cranking out for the week, and apparently we're going to be getting that for many a week ahead, so I look forward to that at least. But I still feel that given time I'll get used to the tone of Lower Decks, but I'm not there yet. Thank God it's only half an hour long. That makes it a lot easier to digest. But anyway, I guess let's get to my thoughts about episode 2. I don't really have any because that Mariner girl was talking the whole fucking time. My God, Mariner is annoying. Insanely annoying. It's not just that she's manic and peppy and a badass. It's the Pinkie Pie from My Little Pony-esque personality. There's the constant chatter. It literally makes it hard for me to pay attention to what's going on because it's so nonstop and sustained and drags on for so long that it makes it really hard not to just start tuning it out and then losing track of where the plot is and what the hell's going on in the show, and you start focusing on something else because it's just becomes just this droning white noise of annoyance. And I don't know if I can get used to that. Look guys, I know the real wish out there from the Star Trek community that from those of us who generally dislike this new era of Star Trek is that we kind of wish they could just go back to just making just more Star Trek episodes the way they already were. It could be a different crew, a different ship, a different series, but essentially TNG and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and Enterprise and the original series all kind of were doing the same thing, and they all feed that same storytelling need, you would think. But here's the problem. We've already had TOS, TNG, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise doing that formula, and it's played out. I appreciate the Orville, but I'm not excited to watch it, and I often tune out mentally and kind of stop paying attention halfway through the episodes because they're all painfully obvious and all feel like it's been done before. They've maybe had 2 or 3 episodes that actually seem to be broaching some sort of new subject in a Star Trek-y way, but for the most part it was just the same old shit. And that was kind of the problem with Enterprise and latter year Voyager and such, is that they were kind of just, they had trod the ground. There's only so many variations on Mystery of Planet X type episodes that can be done. And so at some point we needed to have an era where they were doing something new. There's just something about their viewpoint on Star Trek where they just don't seem to... you're not supposed to take it too serious in a way. And in some ways they're taking it too seriously in terms of the realism of the sets and all that kind of stuff. We don't actually need it to be hyper-realistic visually. It's fine. It's like they can be like little stage plays. It can be a cheap little bridge set and cheap little makeup effects. We understand when we're watching television that we're watching something that is not real. And in the other direction, they don't take it serious enough. They're rather flippant and casual about certain things that are taken as rather sacred by the long-term Star Trek fan community. Once again, another name drop of Section 31. I don't know why Alex Kurtzman is so hung up on Section 31. And I also noticed a thing in all these Star Treks of trying to be much more specific about the year and century. I mean, it was always a thing that you're yes, this is the 23rd century, it's the 24th century. And if you pay real close attention, you can figure out roughly what year it might be. in some of the series, but in other series, like it almost never comes up, if ever. When you're a kid watching these things, it was just the future, and the Stardate thing kind of detaches you from any kind of specific idea of how far away this is supposed to be. But for some reason in Lower Decks, they really want to make sure we know it's the year 2380. I don't know. It's just an odd quirk, and there's other little things like that I noticed that's strewn across all these series of like these things they feel intent, like the cyborgs. Why is this era of Star Trek leaning so much into cybernetics amongst Starfleet and not just as a Borg thing? Several Discovery characters in the background have had cybernetic implants and stuff depicted, including like that redhead pilot chick and stuff. And like one of the main characters here in Lower Decks got a cybernetic eye and head and stuff, like he's Lobot from Star Wars. Some executive just keeps telling him, make sure there's a cyborg in it. I don't know what to say. It seems so generic to just like bash it. And as like I discovered the other day, there is an angle that this show does have, and that it can be used to potentially get people who would otherwise like not have the patience to sit and watch an episode of Star Trek to actually become interested in Star Trek and then have the patience to actually watch the older stuff. I took a kid from work, I sat him down, he only knows Star Trek from Picard memes, like he knew who Picard was because of the facepalm meme, but that's like really about all the Star Trek he knew of. But he liked Rick and Morty. And I sat him down and I interviewed him afterwards on camera. I have some footage on in a previous video. I might tack on like a snippet of it at the end of this video just to counterbalance, because it's weird. I was expecting him to find it incomprehensible because not like being so like immersed in Star Trek lore, I didn't see how a non-Star Trek person could find it funny or get any of it. But he like immediately took to it and said it like inspired him to want to know more about it. And I was able to get him to sit through an episode of TNG, A Measure of the Man, and he quite enjoyed it. And like I know the kid, I've worked with him for years. He plays D&D. He's got a shit attention span. He's like not inclined to have sat through a show that's slowly paced and pay attention and hold the attention all the way through to actually get what the fuck's the point is. He'd be lost too early on because there's not much excitement and frantic action going on. And so this Star Trek is like a gateway for those sorts of people to actually then, because they've been given something to like about it, their interest to learn more gives them the patience to actually sit and absorb the older, longer, slower, quote-unquote, episodes. It could be a case of maybe the trick to Lower Decks is that it's not bad, but it really is a case of this thing is not really made for me and for probably a lot of the people who are complaining about it. Unfortunately, the people who it is meant for, who have the most to gain out of it, is it being advertised well enough to them? Is this Star Trek show being marketed to non-Star Trek Rick and Morty fans? Is it being on CBS All Access a mistake? This thing need to be on Adult Swim instead. Yeah, probably. I don't know if you'd call that a review. I'm sure some stuff happened. I'm pretty sure I saw a Klingon, and whatever. We'll see you next week. Stay waspinated.
Well, did that make it hard for you to follow what was going on?
Not at all. No, it was really, really easy. Like I didn't have too many difficulties just looking and adapting to like the different ethics. Like I like when they reference the laws, so then you start building, your own perspective of the world pretty easily because of just the way that they talk and how they communicate. So they did really good conveyance with the characters.
Would you watch more of it?
Fuck yeah.
And would that make you feel inclined to want to actually start watching other Star Trek?
Yes.